afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to RobMotive. You know, I was thinking as I'm out here driving around in my Toyota Tacoma, what would I buy if there were no Toyota Tacoma? Let's say, for example, Toyota went out of business, poor money management, maybe some scandal among the management, something like that, and they just shut down. There were no more Toyota Tacomas. What would you buy? And let's say, too, let's add one more little kicker to this. Let's say that there weren't any used ones either. For some reason, aliens landed on the planet and targeted the Toyota Tacoma. They said it was just too perfect of a truck for us simple humans to own. They snapped their fingers or hit their death ray, and all of the Toyota Tacomas disappeared. A little far-fetched, I know, but let's go with it. So I've been thinking, you know, I've had other mid-sized trucks. I've had the Frontier, I've had the Chevy S10. Do you remember that? I've had Ford Ranger, and then if we go to the micro trucks, I've had the Santa Cruz, I've had the Jeep Gladiator. I've about run the gamut, really, of mid-sized trucks. So let's start with what I would not buy. First one I would not buy is the Ford Ranger. You know, I test drove way back when they first brought the Ranger back, you know, and it was so successful that Ford had to discontinue it back in the day anyway, right? But I drove that truck, and the only thing I liked about it was the sound of the door closing. It had that little thud that turns me on. I really liked that. Other than that, I didn't like anything else about the truck. I didn't like the power of it. I didn't like the acceleration of it. I didn't like the way it felt on the inside. It felt very pedestrian, very industrial inside. And I guess that's Ford's thing, because I also experienced the same kind of feel in the F-150s I had. That's right. I've had some F-150s. They were just too mundane for me. Nothing turned me on about it. I didn't like it. And it didn't seem as many mods and things that I could do with that truck, thinking back on it. Back in the day, I didn't do any mods and anything like that. I was afraid of voiding warranties or screwing things up. I'm not like that anymore. I have evolved. But I would not buy the Ford Ranger. Next up, the Nissan Frontier. I also had a Frontier back in the day. It was horrible. I mean, it had lots of power, don't get me wrong. From an acceleration standpoint, nothing beat that Frontier that I had many years ago. But other than that, it was bulky feeling, and it was a mid-sized truck. It's when the Frontier was, I think, bigger. I don't know. It just felt really bulky, cumbersome to me. It wasn't a lot of fun to drive, and what made it even worse, again, was the horrible fuel economy. I think on my Frontier back in the day, it was getting something like 10 miles per gallon, something like that. I mean, it was absolutely horrible. And it got to the point where I didn't really want to drive it at all, because I didn't want to keep feeding it, if for no other reason than I didn't want to just have to worry about which gas station I was going to go to next. Kind of a crazy thing, I know. It's not like there weren't any gas stations around, but it bugged me. And again, it's another truck that was like the Ford Ranger, very pedestrian, very trucky inside. It was too trucky. I want some of the bling and some of the flair and some of the technology, and I didn't have that back when I had that Nissan Frontier, and it, I guess, kind of tainted me towards that brand. You know, the Frontier these days has come a long way. I think it's better looking. I don't know how reliable it is. I keep hearing bad things about that, but it just doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't turn me on when it comes to trucks, you know. Next up, and I'm going to go way back a little bit, and that's the Chevy S10. I didn't dig the S10. It was very bland. It was like the Ford Rangers back in the day. Kind of tainted me a little bit towards the new Chevys, the Colorado, for example. Although we're going to get to that one in just a minute. Another one I wouldn't buy would be the micro trucks. I've done the micro truck thing. I really do think they're kind of faddy. That's F-A-D-D-Y, faddy. It was fun. Plenty of power, lots of tech inside that Santa Cruz that I had. I mean, I really did like that. That was cool. If I could put that tech inside the Toyota Tacoma, it would be awesome. I loved the screens and all the things that you could do. That was cool. But after a while, it didn't feel like a truck. It felt like an SUV with a bed on the back. And I guess that's kind of what it is, right? I mean, it was kind of like the whatever version SUV that Hyundai has that kind of chopped off the rear seating and added that bed area. Really cool design, lots of neat stuff, but I didn't have that truck satisfaction that I like. I mean, when I'm driving around in a truck, or what's supposed to be a truck, and maybe the Santa Cruz was never meant to be a truck. I guess maybe that was my problem. But I want it to feel like a truck. I want to feel like I'm driving around in a truck. And I do get that from the Toyota Tacoma. Next up, and this is a tough one, the Jeep Gladiator. It's kind of a niche vehicle, I think. I loved the Jeep Gladiator. If you didn't know, I recently traded that off on a Toyota Tundra, which is awesome. I'm so happy that I did that. If you want to check it out, it's over on RobMotive JT, which, by the way, now stands for Just Trucks, not Jeep Truck. But I love that vehicle. The Gladiator was awesome, but it was another kind of niche feeling vehicle. It didn't really feel like a truck. It felt like a Jeep with a bed on the back. You know, like a Wrangler with a bed on the back, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it was perfectly capable. I never had any issues, any major issues with mine, although there are a lot of issues with them. My mother right now on hers just had to replace the auxiliary battery and then still had some issues after that. So reliability was a big concern for me. Again, something I don't worry about with the Toyota Tacoma. It's rock solid. It's always there without any problems or lights on the dash or having to worry about auxiliary batteries or auto stop, which unfortunately I believe is coming to the 2024 Tacoma. But Toyota seems to have that down. So hopefully it'll be a good system. And that's about it. So what's left? What would I buy? I mean, I've kind of discounted everything, right? There's one left that if I had to buy it, it would be the Chevy Colorado. I like the looks of the new Colorado, not the old ones. I like the looks of it. I think it has an aggressive stance to it. It can be lifted and look really good, I think. Still lacking in the feel on the inside. From what I've seen of them, and I haven't driven one recently, so I don't know about acceleration and power and all that. Maybe it's a good opportunity to put a pedal commander in there if it has that lag to get rid of it, so that would take care of it. But I don't know. From what I have seen, they still look too trucky on the inside, too bland, too pedestrian. I suppose I could get a model that was hopped up. They do have some options out there that give you a bit more bling and flair on the inside, but that's the one that I would choose, the Chevy Colorado. Leave a comment. I'd be curious. If there were no Toyota Tacoma, what would you get instead? Or would you just buy a car and not have a truck at all? I'd just be curious to know. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.